I think it's very, very important to step back and understand how the Torah looks at our obligations and our relationship with others. See, in the context of morality and ethics, I think it's important to recognize that there is a basic construct in the world of how they understood good and evil, or how you understand what is ethical, is more ethical. And that's what I call the selfish, selfless axiom. That's basically the way most people look at ethical perspectives. If you're selfless, you're doing something for others, that's good. If you're selfish, if it's totally selfish, so you consider it to be like that you're actually doing it at the detriment of others, that's negative, but still perceived like, that's at most neutral. You know, in a certain way, there's a balance there, but there's a certain perspective that the person who's a real righteous person, the saint, won't be driving Lamborghinis. He would not feel comfortable with luxury purchases. There's a perception like that. That wealth is problematic. That how can you have a real pious person who's wealthy? That type of perspective, and that's reinforced by, let's say, the Catholic model, where you have a model in the Catholic Church, if you want to become a priest, one of the vows you have to take is a vow of poverty. Okay, the idea that everything I do has to be for others. In fact, there's some priests who argue that's the reason why priests can't have families, because they're supposed to be totally open to being able to help everyone else, so they can have their own familial responsibilities. And it gets into a lot of ethical issues of this nature. That's why within an ethical model, or certain ethical models, there's a perspective that the real ethical person is the person who does not distinguish in his giving between his family members and other people. If there's a need, it should not matter whether it's family or not family. In fact, giving to a family member has a little thing of selfishness, because you have a feeling of connection to that person. No, it's better, it should be totally like, I want to give with nothing in return. Okay, these are extremes, and obviously I'm not talking anything within a Jewish perspective, I'm just talking about the mindset of people. That basically we're taught to have this concept that selflessness is the good. Okay, and you hear people talk about this when they're talking about things within their own family. They'll never say, I want to buy this. I want to buy it for my kids. There has to be an aspect that I'm giving. Okay, there has to be an aspect of I'm giving. And the truth is, a lot of people have that perspective. That there always has to be a purpose for some giving, and so forth and so forth. But the idea of just taking care of oneself, that becomes somewhat of an issue to a lot of people within the ethical model. Okay, any comments on this, or you're sort of?
Okay. This is outside the Jewish model.
Yes, this is outside the Jewish model. The fact is, it does integrate into the Jewish model. There's people who do think this way. Okay, there are people who I know. There was one person, I was once talking to him, and in his whole mind, he always talks about doing chesed. He's even talking in such a way that he's done chesed that he only invites people over to his house, and he never goes to anyone else's house, right? Because I have to give, and I'm not going to take by someone else. Although that's too simplistic a perception.
He should only invite people he doesn't like to his house.
Well, there's even that perspective as well. That perspective, that's hard. The more hard work, the fumsara agra, the difficulty. There's perceptions of look at me, the tzidkas. I invite a person that no one else would ever have into their house. That's mine. But there is that perspective. And there are values, but Mesiras Nefesh, giving up and so forth. But that's the perspective of that moral system. So I mentioned the Catholic Church. So to give an example of the extreme of that position, there's a story that goes about a Catholic priest during the Second World War, right? Where a Nazi came up to some Pole and was ready to shoot a Polish guy. Nothing to do with Jews here. He was ready to shoot a Polish guy. This Catholic priest comes over and says, if you need to kill someone, kill me instead. Right? Okay? And Nazi said, well, Poles are Pole, I like it. So he said, okay, fine. Okay? And he shot the Catholic priest. He killed the Catholic priest. This Catholic priest was recently, a few years ago, was beatified. Okay? When John Paul II was still Pope. Because he was a Pole also. Okay? And they had a whole big ceremony in the Vatican. And the guy he saved, was there and talking about what a great righteous person is. He was willing to die to save the other guy. That's a real righteous act, we say, right? Okay. So, a person says, don't kill him, kill me instead. That's considered to be righteous. From a Jewish perspective, what's the answer on that? No.
I think there's an argument about it. With all due respect.
Yeah.
I just heard it from Rabbi Sullivan.
Yeah.
There was an argument between Reish Lakish and I'm trying to think who the other person was. Could have been Rabbi Yehuda, but I'm not sure. What? About a person who is being held captive.
Right.
And one of the spokesmen said, take out the shrouds. We've lost him. He's dead. And Rachel Lakish said, no, I'm going to get him. And either I'm coming back with him or I'm not coming back.
That's a little bit different.
That's the say.
What?
That's the say. That's not giving up your life.
That's not necessarily to give up your life.
But he was prepared to give up his life to save him.
There's a question of something different. You're talking of a different question. The
statement was that either both of us will come back or none of us will come back.
Right, you see, that's a little bit different. The questions you're getting into is how much, we have a concept in Torah of v'chai achicha imach, that your brother should live with you, and the perception within Torah that we have a responsibility for the life of someone else. Okay, so the point is that if we have, as we would put it in legal terms, a concept of a positive duty of care. The law constantly has changed in North America. Many states are different now, but it used to be under the common law. If a guy was standing over there and yelling to save him, he was about to, whatever it was, and it's no tirka for you, no problems, especially no sakana for you, no problems for you to save him, right?
No danger.
No danger, that's right. So the fact is, under the civil law, the common law, you had no positive duty of care. You had no obligation to say. That was the English common law and so forth. Now, in many states, in the United States, and it might be in some provinces of Canada, I don't know what the present state of the legislation is, but that has been developed in terms of the fact that now there may be positive duties of care. But if you have people standing by, there's a lot of cases in New York City. There are a lot of cases of a woman being raped, and all these people sitting by. She was yelling for help, and no one did anything, right? Under the original common law, you have no positive duty of care. Okay, in Torah you do. Okay, but the question starts getting into what happens if there's sakana. Okay, if there's no sakana, you clearly have a positive duty of care. The question is as the risk develops in terms of your own damages, and it could be whether there's going to be repercussions in terms of physical ailments, you could possibly get a broken arm or something like that, or in terms of physical pain, or in terms of potential life-threatening and so forth and so forth, there starts a halachic spectrum. Okay, basically, the absolute obligation to care, that usually doesn't exist once there's an aspect of sakana or negative consequences. The point is that if it gets to the point that you absolutely will die in terms of the other person, then it's usher for you to do it. The question is along the spectrum of the probabilities, then it gets into different perspectives and different shitas, whether chance, things like that, right? For example, this comes up all the time. Is that if a person needs a kidney, and you are a match to give them a kidney, right? Do you have an obligation to give them a kidney? Okay, and it's a matter of Hashavas. There's mitzvahs of being marap and stuff like that. The point is that since giving the kidney could be dangerous to you, you don't have necessarily any obligation to it. However, if you do it, you can do it. Okay, that's generally the perspective. Now, there are different positions on this. The fact is that's your case you're talking about. That's what Rabbi Hecht is talking about, most likely. But the issue is something different here. This is one for one. Okay? What happened with that priest is kill me and don't kill him, which means basically his life has precedence over my life. That's the ultimate extent of the concept of this idea of selflessness. Okay? There's a perception that I should totally negate myself for the other. That's an aspect of the good, extreme aspect of certain understanding of the good within that. Okay, the question arises, is there a place for that in Judaism? So a lot of people have a difficulty in terms of understanding the ethical perspective, because the idea that ethics develops with the concept of selflessness is an important concept. Okay, it seems to be it. We talk in terms of Torah, like Messiah reception, so forth, so forth. But obviously, it doesn't go to that extent, because we have a concept of our own, there's a value of our own life. The point is, what's really behind that concept? What does it really tell you? So, the classic source is based upon this verse of Achai Chichi Mach. It's a verse in Vayikra. Okay, I think Perchachei in Vayikra. And there's a classic Gemara. The Gemara is in Baba Metzia, Samach Beis Amud Aleph. And the Gemara talks about the following case. Two people, I'm sure you all know the case. Two people are in the desert. One of them has enough water that if one of them drinks from the water, there'll be enough for one of them to get to a safe place. Right? However, if the person shares the water, right? Okay, there's not enough water for both of them to be saved, and they can both perish, right? From thirst. Actually, before from thirst and so forth. What should you do? Should you share the water? Okay, that's the first. So the truth is that the first shita in the Gemara is the Ben Petura. He says you should share the water. That's his opinion. That's not the opinion that becomes stuck. Rabbi Akiva comes around and says, no, you have to drink the water yourself. In other words, the one that has the water has to drink it, and there are people who say it could be he can drink it, but most people hold he has to drink it. There's no choice, this is an obligation, and he has the concept of drinking, because the verse says, V'chai achicha imach, your brother shall live with you, that's what the verse says, chayecha kodem. Your life is first. And there's a Tosfos in the Avodah Zarah, it's quoted by everyone, Zayin Amud Aleph in the Avodah Zarah, who says that the statement of Chai Chich Imach, that word Imach is that person should live, your brother should live with you. That means that your brother is secondary to you. Your life has precedence. You're first on the totem pole. Okay, you come first, and then your brother comes. So therefore, from a Jewish perspective, it would seem that what that priest did is absolutely incorrect, right? More than that, you're walking in the desert, okay? You have water, the other guy doesn't have water. You have to drink the water. I'm sorry, I'm living, you're not. So the question emerges: what does that mean? Does that reinforce a concept of selfishness? Does that mean, hey, listen, I don't care about you, I'm just going to drink myself? Listen, my life's more important than you. Is that what it means? So what's the underlying ethic behind that Gemara? So I'm going to tell you another case, okay, that I think has application to this. You all know that there's a concept of Youre Yavor, right? You should allow yourself to die rather than being violating a law. Pretty classic idea. For 3 mitzvot, right, we have this concept of Youre Yavor for 3 categories of mitzvot. For avodah zarah, right, for idolatry, for gilui arayos, for the major sexual prohibitions, and for shvichus damim, and for murder. If a person comes up to you and says, "Kill Ham Yankel over there," or "I'll kill you," you have to say, "Kill me," right? Okay. You look at the statement. Wait a second. Sorry, not Chai Chichmach. Sorry, kill me, right? I can't. Youre Yavor. So, if that's true, what do you do with Chai Chichmach? We just said from Chai Chichmach that your life has precedence. Yet, if someone comes up to you and says, "Listen, you kill that person, or I'll kill you," right? Then you have to say, "I'm sorry, kill me." Okay? I'm not going to kill that person. Because how do you reconcile these 2 laws? Who really has precedence? Well, let's look at a third case. A person comes up to you and says, "Listen, I need to throw something heavy onto this little guy walking by over here. I want to kill him." Okay? And you're the heaviest thing around here, to me to throw on him. So I want you to let me take you and throw you onto Chaim Yankel as you walked by and killing him. Okay? However, and if you don't let me do that, I'm going to kill you. Okay? I have my reasons. I don't want to shoot Chaim Yankel, whatever it is, but I'm willing to shoot you, but I want you to fall on him and make it look like an accident, right? Or whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to explain why this guy has these reasons. A person comes up to you and says, "I want to use you as a murder weapon," right? And if you don't let me use you as a murder weapon, I'm going to kill you. Okay? So what's the psak in that case? In that case, you allow yourself to be used as a murder weapon.
You do?
Yeah. Okay? Okay? There's no Youre Yavor in that case. The fact of the matter is you have to say, okay. Are you being a shliach? So how do you understand that case? What's the difference? So if you put these 3 cases together, how do you understand what's really going on over here? Okay? In 2 of the cases I mentioned, your life comes first. In another case, the other person's life comes first. What's the difference? So if you look at it, it's an interesting aspect here. In one case, you're asked to do an action. The other 2 cases, you're not asked to do an action. In the cases of you shoot that guy or I'll shoot you, right? You're asked to do the avera of murder. You're asked to actually take an action and kill someone else. So you're asked to do an avera, right? They have to say, "Listen, I'm not going to do an avera. I'm sorry, kill me on this." The other case, when the guy says, "I want to take you and throw you," you're passive. You're not doing anything. So that's the distinction in that case. One case you're active, one case you're passive. So you're allowing yourself.
So that is an action.
You're not doing anything. You say, "Okay, I'm a board. I'm totally passive."
But your intention is to kill the person.
Not your intention. You know the guy would get killed, but you're not doing any action. The concept in Youre Yavor, you should know, the concept in Youre Yavor, it's a classic concept that says that as long as you're passive, there's no obligation of Youre Yavor.
Can you stand by and let someone get killed?
Not stand by. That's right. You're
being
being passive. You're being used, but you're not doing the act. You're not doing the avera. It also applies by.
So you don't agree to it. You just don't do anything.
Right, but it's also a classic question of if you have the same halacha by women, okay? And this is it's said by Esther. But when Esther was taken by Achashverosh, right? According to the view in the Gemara that she was married to Mordechai, How could she come? So she just says she was karka olam. She was totally passive, and therefore there's no fee of Youre Yavor if you're totally passive. And that's a big difference. If a woman is told, if you don't do this, if you do not sleep with this person, a married woman is told, you don't sleep with this person, I'm going to kill you. If she's totally passive, she can say, okay. As long as I don't have to do anything.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
If a woman is raped in the countryside, and if a woman is raped in the city,
right,
there's different consequences.
The idea of countryside and city is to tell you that in the countryside there's an assumption that she may have screamed out and tried to do something, and that's the idea. In the countryside, no one heard her. In the city, if she says, I tried to.
If she was passive in both cases.
Yeah, she's not violent. If she doesn't, the point over there, if you have like Youre, if some guy comes up with a gun, wait a minute, a gun, open up your mouth, I'm going to shoot you. If you scream, I'm going to kill you. Think she's now obligated? Still rape, right? The point is the Youre Yavor is, I'll shoot you if you don't do this. Like in cases, if you don't sleep with that guy over there, I'm going to shoot you. So that case over there is that.
No, but what I'm saying is she's expected to fight back.
No.
Well, what is screaming?
No.
What is screaming?
If she had the opportunity to fight back, a guy has a gun, and if she doesn't have any chance, she's not expected to fight back.
No, what I'm saying is, in the case where the person says, I'm going to throw you on top of this guy and kill him, right?
Right.
So, if you're completely passive and allow the person to use you this way, you're not chayav.
Right.
Right. In the case of a woman in the city,
no, okay, what's that?
If she fears for her life,
right,
and doesn't shout,
she's off. She's not chayav.
She's off?
Yeah. She has to. She fears for her life. She has to scream out, even though she's being afraid for her life. All it means is that someone grabbed a woman, okay, and wanted to rape her. And normally, women would scream, okay. In the normal case, so she's saying, "Hey, out there in the countryside, we can have an assumption that it was not consensual because no one heard." Over here, right? We have in the city. We have an assumption it's not. In the countryside, we have an assumption that it's not consensual because even if she would have screamed, no one would have heard her.
Right.
Over here, this case happens. So our answer is, so why didn't you scream? Okay, so we have an assumption that it's consensual. She says, I didn't scream because he had a gun on me, and I was afraid to scream. Doesn't mean it. Okay, you understand. It's not the fact that she's screaming; it's the indication of whether it was consensual or not. Okay, if she, what do you mean? A guy comes in and says, I'm here to I'm going to rape you, and don't raise your mouth. Don't raise, don't open your mouth.
No, let's say a person says, I'm going to kill your children if you make a sound.
Yeah, it's very Yavor. That's in that case. It's especially if she's passive. In that case, she's going to kill your kids. Then the answer is be passive. Now, if she's asked to participate in the act, if she's asked to do an action, then it's Youre Yavor, and that also applies to her children. Youre Yavor means I cannot do this to save someone else's life. It's not just my life. Youre Yavor means I can't do this to save people's lives. That's the famous question by Esther. How could Esther do this to save the Jewish people's life? So it's different. There's different approaches. She was like Karkol. She was passive, but the fact is.
I thought there was an avera for mitzvah in her case.
What?
I thought that there was one of the few cases where it qualifies as doing an avera.
There are people in this very small. It's a whole question of there's such a concept as very small by only non-Jews or Jews. It's a whole big issue. That there are people who hold that this.
So the other explanation is that she was passive.
She's totally passive.
Right.
Okay, and the fact is that in the case of she was totally passive in situations, but the case is that you're totally passive. It's a different a woman totally passive. So this applies also to this case over here. Guy comes to you and says, "I'm going to shoot you." You're totally passive. You're not doing it in a very big about. Can you do it normally? No, of course not, because you're being involved in an avera, right? The guy says, "Hey, Bill, come on over here. We want to use you to kill Joe." Of course, you can't do it. You can't be involved in doing an avera. But a guy puts a gun to your head and says, "We're going to do it like that." Then it's like that. But the question is why. See, that's what I'm going to get to. So the question is by the case of, if I go up to you and I say, I put a gun to your head, kill that person, I'll kill you, you say no. By this case, no. Why? So the Gemara says, in the first case, who says it's a svara? Who says that your blood is redder than the other person's blood? Okay? In other words, there are two lives here. He says, "I'll shoot you," or unless you shoot him, right? So a person goes up to Chaim to Moshe and says, "Moshe, kill Chaim Yankel, or I'll kill you." So what do? So Moshe is being asked to say, "Listen, you do the avera of committing murder, or I'll kill you." So you look at it and say, "Listen, what's the consequence? There'll be one human being dead, either Moshe or Chaim Yankel. Who says that Chaim Yankel's blood? Who says that your blood is redder than the other person? Who says Moshe? Who says your blood is redder than Chaim Yankel's blood?" So what does it mean? It means you're both equal, two human beings. It's the same svara by the case of being thrown on it. There you're not being asked to do an avera. There it's like there's going to be two people who are dead in the. There's going to be one person dead, but you're not being asked to do an avera. So the point is in that case we can ask the question: who says the other person's blood is redder than yours? It's in a certain way what's being presented here, and this is the challenge of the selfish model, is that either way, when you have a selfless model, the human being is the key determinant. Either I'm less than someone else, or I'm more than someone else, but it's everything from my perspective. Should I be concerned about myself, or should I constantly put myself down? But what's happening, the way I understand what's happening in this other case, is that you're seeing things from a very different perspective. You're a human being, and the other person's a human being. In the eyes of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, you're both equal. You are both equal in the eyes of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So from that perspective, any time you say the other person's worth more than me, or I'm worth more than another person, you're missing the cheshbon of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. God is saying that you're both equal. Now, from that perspective, who says his blood is redder than yours, and who says your blood is redder than him? So what do you do in that case? So if you're being called upon to do an avera, in other words, that tips the scale. Who says your blood is redder than the other blood, that you are allowed to be involved in committing murder, in doing an act of murder, which God has said don't do? The result is the same. A human being will die, but in this case, if you pull the trigger, you will be doing the avera. So is your life worth so much more than the other person that you should carry that cost of doing an avera? No. But in the other case, when you're passive, you're not doing anything wrong. You're totally passive. So in that case, who says that the other person's blood is worth more than yours? You're both equal. So therefore, let it ride. Oh, so let it ride. Don't tell the guy he has to kill you. Whatever. But what does that mean? There's two things I see from this, and this really applies to the case of the desert. See, the fact is if you look at life from the perspective of Kadosh Baruch Hu, from people from Kadosh Baruch Hu, then you really understand that the selfless model is not the way a Kadosh Baruch Hu sees things. In the vision of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, everyone's equal. That case I told you of the priest and the Paul, My nafkamina. The priest comes and says, no, I want to be I want to be selfless. Kill me instead. Very nice. That's good. But kalpe shmaya, Kodesh Baruch Hu, a person died. With you, the person died. What's the difference? That's one perspective. That's a perspective of understanding it from Kodesh Baruch Hu's perspective. So then, what becomes your perspective? From that perspective, there is a distinction, because the Kodesh Baruch Hu is also the mitzvah. Kodesh Baruch Hu has given you obligations. So once He's given you obligations, He becomes the commander, and He says, "This is your job, and that's your job, and this is your job." In other words, all the human beings are equal, but I've given you this particular job. Okay, not me. Kodesh Baruch Hu has given you this particular job. I'm giving you that particular job. And now you have a responsibility due to your obligation. That's something different. And what's the first obligation? That's the verse of Achai Achicha Imach. Your first obligation is to yourself as obligatory. There's a classic story of the Chavetz Chaim. You may have heard me say this before. That really illustrates this. There was a guy who was a gvir who supported yeshivas. The guy wanted to stop. He wanted to stop working. He wanted to go sit and learn. So Chavetz Chaim found this out and spoke to this guy. And he said to the guy like this: he says, "Let me ask you something." It was during the war. It was the Western Front and the Eastern Front. And he said to him, "Listen, there's a soldier assigned to the Western Front. Okay? He wakes up one day and he runs away from the Western Front and goes to the Eastern Front. And on the Eastern Front he becomes a remarkable hero and does some great things on the Eastern Front. What do you call this soldier?" Here was, Chavetz Chaim says, a deserter. His job was on the Western Front. The fact that he went to the Eastern Front did remarkably, that's very nice, but that wasn't his job. His job was the Western Front. So he's trying to say to the Gvir, you have a responsibility, you have a job to maintain the mostot and these yeshivot. It's nice you want to sit and learn, it's very nice, but that's not your responsibility, that's not your job. The fact is that's a remarkable story. What really is being said is that you have to know that in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have a responsibility. Chayecha Koda means your first obligation is to your responsibility that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given you. And that's your first responsibility. And your first responsibility, God has told you, is take care of yourself. Take care of your job. You have a job to do. Now, move from there to assist others and so forth and so forth. But if you're by giving water to the other guy, you're going to die as well, you're not doing your job. You have a job to take care of yourself. Kalpei Shmayim. And that, I think, is the important perspective over here. That we have to look at ourselves as the percent of the soldiers is that we have to look at ourselves from the perspective of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. That all human beings are equal, okay, their lives are all equal, but the distinction is God has given me obligations. So in the case of murder, what? To save myself, I'm going to have to do a sin, a vera? Who says my life is more important? No, because the lives are equal. Okay, that's where now it gets.
The question of the logic here is that in the death of somebody, I won't do an avera to cause it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? But if I choose to sacrifice my life, that person should live.
Mm-hmm.
If one chooses to sacrifice their life, that another should live, right? He's doing a major positive mitzvah. He's saving a life.
Not necessarily.
No, not as his own loss.
Not necessarily.
No, but it's two separate things. He may be doing an avera if he gets killed. But for sure he's doing a mitzvah of saving another life.
You're talking.
No, I don't believe that.
To save a life is a mitzvah, is it not?
Not if we have. like basically, this is what you were saying. Just came out of me when you started with the pre-story. If we have emunah in Hashem, and this is how everything's supposed to be destined, who are we to say this is maybe His way of Him having to deal with this person? This person's supposed to die. Who are we to step in?
You see, there's a problem with that perspective.
But not totally. But not totally, because it comes out to the same thing as going. If we're really all equal, and we have the emunah.
It's. You see, I think the fact is
not to stop not helping. Yes, in situations, yes, you do step forward.
The point is,
but it's Hashem's
the fact is,
in the end.
fact is, in that situation, okay, it's key over here. You have the bottle of water. It's your water, right? Get into details here. Okay, so the point is that you since it's your water, you have a responsibility to deal with your property to save yourself first, your life. What you're talking about is that's where you're getting. Now, if you want to look back and say, listen, Kodesh Baruch Hu behind it, since it works this way in halacha, they sit there and say, listen, it was Kodesh Baruch Hu's decision. I mean, that may be part of it. But the point is,
I give Chaim Yankel the water.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to live, right?
Hang on for
a second. I say it. I'm in the situation to decide.
But it's not your decision.
It is my decision. No, I'm confronted with the decision. It is for sure my decision at that moment.
Okay.
For sure it's my decision.
Yeah.
I give Chaim Yankel the water.
Right.
With the understanding in my own mind that he's going to live.
Right.
And the odds of my living are near zero.
Right.
Right? But maybe I'll stumble on an oasis. Maybe I'll survive. Right?
Okay. So
I have the mitzvah of saving his life.
Okay. The fact is, you see, you're bringing up something else. You see, people will turn around and say, maybe you should have emunah.
That's what my thing is.
The other way.
The emunah with sharing the water, sharing the water, not giving it totally. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, here I'm doing a mitzvah because both of our lives are equal, and both of us are holy in Hashem's eyes, and we should be having emunah that will be saved.
The fact is, what you're saying is you maybe should have emunah or whatever. The fact is, that's what the concept of Selfless is. Your obligation is to make decisions given the derech hateva, given the natural world. That's how you make decisions. Okay? If you make decisions contrary to halacha because you have emunah, everything's going to turn out all right, that's not acceptable.
Well, not to sit back and just wait for it.
No, but that's not acceptable. But what you're saying is like this. There's a mitzvah saving someone else's life. That's true. After you've saved your own life. After you're sure that you're going to live. Okay? That's the point. Because when you say, I'm going to save someone else, fine. You just went to the eastern front where you were assigned to the western front. Okay? In terms of mitzvot, there are orders of mitzvot. You know, if you wanna, give tzedakah on Shabbos, it's a mitzvah tzedakah. Yeah, on Shabbos. The point is, there's orders here. What's being said in this Gemara is that yes, you want to save that other person's life, but not at the expense of your life. Okay, and then you want to get into aspects of odds and so forth and so forth. So that's where you get into the question that there's even a shaila. Could you give a kidney to the other person? So there, people say you have the permission to. In other words, that gamble
is the racial offish argument.
Right. That's the racial offish position over there. But it's not a definite death. It's not a definite death. It's not 95% of the chance you're going to die. The point of the matter is in fact, there are people who hold that it's 50-50. You're not allowed to do it. It has to be much less than 50-50. But the fact is what you're talking about is prioritization. There is a sense of prioritization based upon the concept that your life is first. Now, what you're talking about is that in a sense over there, where it's my life and another person's life, and I threw in the concept that the avera of Misa could affect the balance, I'm saying here's two people. One person's going to be dead. Should it be me or should it be the other person, right? So the point is normally we say, Chayach HaKodem, your life comes first. However, when you're asked to do the avera of murder, that changes the perspective. It's no longer 50-50 in the balance, right? No, it's no longer I'm holding the water, right? It's my water, and I can drink it, because that's the normal way of doing it. Because the fact is that what's being told is that here I am doing my thing. I'm following Torah, I'm doing my thing, okay? I'm walking in the desert, I'm drinking water, I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm doing what I should do. Okay? It just so happens if I continue doing this, there's a repercussion to someone else. If I break from the normative pattern, okay, it's going to come out that the other person is going to suffer. That's where, hey, listen, you have your orders. You have your orders. And your order is to include taking care of yourself. Now, that's where it gets interesting in terms of family. Okay, this is where the whole Jewish concept begins differently in terms of family. Who's your first responsibility to?
Your children.
Your children, your family. That's why tzedakah begins with family. Because we're not looking at it from the selfless, spectrum. We're looking at the obligation that you have towards others. See, I'll tell you a fascinating halacha that really, I think, brings home this point about the distinction in ethical perspective. Okay, a lot of people don't understand this law. Okay, if you have a chesed to do, and I did see there's different types of cheseds and so forth, but generally you have a chesed to do, and you're sitting and learning. Okay, and this chesed can be done by someone else. There's a concept of saying, I'm learning, let someone else do the chesed. Now, when you say it to a lot of people like that, and they say, what are you talking about? You have a chance to do a chesed, that's a remarkably good thing to do, and so forth and so forth. Yeah, if you're looking on the selfless model, right, then basically helping out someone else, how can you do it? You have a chance to go and help someone who's sick and so forth and so forth. What, I should be sitting there and learning rather than going and actually doing the mitzvah of helping out someone? Right? Yes. If someone else can do it, then you should be sitting and learning, because your first obligation is to development of your own wisdom and knowledge and developing of your own understanding of Torah. That's the first obligation.
But you're also giving the other person a chance to do it.
That's a secondary consideration.
It's a relay.
That's true, but that's not the consideration. The consideration is you want the act to be done. There's a difference also between some aspects of Jewish ethics. Rabbi Dr. Walter Wurzburger puts this out in both books of his. He has a book called Covenantal. Anyways, as Rabbi Dr. Walter Wurzburger points this out, there's a major difference in the ethics of Judaism and the ethics of, let's say, Christianity, whether the focus of ethics is on the doer or on the accomplishment. Okay? In many ways, certain aspects of ethics is on the emotions of the doer. You should feel empathetic, you should feel this, you should feel that. The focus is very much on how you do it. Right? In Judaism, the focus is on the accomplishment. Is the job getting done? So if the job's going to get done, I can say, no, the job's getting done. Very much from a practical, pragmatic, obligatory perception.
Doesn't Rambam discuss giving charity that grudgingly is one of the lower forms?
That's lower forms. There is concepts of how you should do it, but what I'm talking about is whether the focus is on the accomplishment or your feeling. In certain ethical develops, what he develops over here is there's certain ethical systems, the focus is on the doer. That's the whole ethical perspective. What the accomplishment is secondary to the emotions of the doer. That they should feel charitable and so forth and so forth. Very much in a Jewish perspective, the focus is on the accomplishment. Right? Did you give the tzedakah? Did you help out the people? Okay, not so much on whether on your personal emotions. Although there's still an obligation, you're supposed to do it cheerfully and so forth and so forth. Right. It's a matter of the focus. But what I'm trying to say is a lot of this has to do with the perception of perceiving yourself from an obligatory, dutiful way. The concept of duty. People talk about how Judaism, talks about people try and say the difference between Judaism is that it focuses on duties rather than rights. Okay, that in America we talk in terms of rights.
Right.
In Judaism we talk in terms of duties. The point is that people don't really understand that comes from the concept of or people don't understand the extent of where that comes from. It comes from the fact that our relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu is that we are under His command, and we have a duty to follow through on His objective for us. And we each have our own objectives. So if ultimately Kadosh Baruch Hu is a Tova Meitiv, and His objective for every human being is positive to the human being. The point thing is to understand that that's our objective. So it's a very different ethical perspective. Okay? And that ethical perspective is much broader in the sense that that's where you have responsibilities to self. You have responsibilities to self. Why? Because you gotta be able to meet all the obligations, and the obligations are multidimensional. It's not just like the Gra says. There's 3 types of mitzvahs. Okay, we have Ben Adam L'Chaveru, Ben Adam L'Makom, the 2 classic things: man and man, man and God. The Gra says there's another mitzvah, Ben Adam L'Atzmo, between man and himself. Okay, and that's what, and that's tied to the fact that it's tied to Al Shosh's Varma Olamomi. Right, 3 things the world stands on: Torah, Avodah, Gemilas Hasadim. So it says Gemilas Hasadim, that's man and man. Avodah, that's man and God. Torah, Limud Torah, is Ben Adam L'Atzmo. You have an obligation to develop yourself. Okay, you have an obligation. This is God's obligation to you. So once you understand it, that this is an ethical value, right? It's a very different perspective. So when you understand that, every dollar that you receive, it's not just selfish or selfless. Perception is, what's my obligation towards my resources? Okay? If you're giving everything away and you're not eating, right? How can you be a good soldier? Right? How can you really do avodas Hashem? You have responsibilities. See, the key word is responsibilities to God's obligation to you. And that's really the behind what we're looking at here. What God is telling you, when you go out into the world, right, you have resources. Part of those resources are financial. You have to know how to balance out the financial resources, to use it to the best ability to accomplish your goal, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's goal for you. Okay? And that's very much what it's about. Okay? And that has, in a certain way, I'm not trying to justify selfishness, but in a certain way, I'm trying to say, something, you have to think what the ultimate goal is. And if you never have time for yourself, you're never sitting and learning because you're always doing chesed, you look again. Okay? It's really remarkable. We're actually seeing, I know of a case where there was a guy who was getting involved in doing chesed here and chesed there, but he was always more chesed. And some other rabbi was involved in this and saying, I'm trying to do something, and this other guy's always getting involved. Tell him it's not his mitzvah. I'm already involved. This guy is so involved. He wants to do it. He wants to be involved. It's not your mitzvah. The guy actually, he messed up a couple of times because he always had to do chesed. That's the difference of what we call the Messiah complex. Messiah complex says, I have to be the one who helps out everyone. You know something? Look around. The guy's being helped out. Baruch Hashem. Very nice. I don't have to do it now. And you see, that's the big difference. And a lot of people who perceive that model is that they want to do the chesed. Other people sitting there and saying, it's taken care of? Good, I'll go back to my learning. I have a lot to do in my life. I'm a busy man. That's what we're supposed to be. We're busy men. I want to make sure things are taken care of, but if they're taken care of, it's a different perspective. Okay, so that's the perspective I want to lay down as we go through this in terms of the basic structure.